In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to upcycle this 1990s veil and make it into 2 veils and a flower girl headband. All right, so this veil was donated to Adorned Grace. And if you've been following me, I volunteer at Adorned Grace, and they are a bridal shop here in Oregon that 70% of the donations of bridal veils and gowns that they give, 70% of that goes to help girls who have been rescued from human trafficking and very bad situations. I got this veil from them because this isn't really going to sell in the shop. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to make this into 2 veils and a headband so that they can make more money for the shop. And if you want to learn more about Adorned Grace, go ahead and check out the link in my description below. All right, the first thing we're going to do is get some scissors. Oh, and I want to show you for this tutorial, I'm going to be gathering the veil with some fishing line and a couple of safety pins. I've got some invisible thread with a size 11 needle, some rubbing alcohol for any glue, because we're going to be using glue, a couple of plastic combs, 1/4 of an inch ribbon, double-sided, and a rotary. And now let's go ahead and cut this off. This is the fun part for me. And this is very similar to the style that I wore in my wedding in '89. I actually made my own veil, and it was a headband, and I used similar kind of things. We didn't have a lot of options back there, and my veil actually started my veil journey, so it's kind of cool. That's actually really cute, and we will play around with this in a second. But first we're going to do the veil. I'm going to just take off this entire bit here. And before I did all of this, I washed this in a bath of OxiClean, and I rinsed it real thoroughly and dried it so everything is clean and ready to go. Now, one of the first things I noticed on this is they did not use a rotary cutter, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. And if I have a tutorial on the cuttage veil, the most important thing when cutting a veil is you do not use scissors because of this very reason. See how it's all jagged like that? That's not acceptable. Not in my world, it isn't. Look at that. It's just awful. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take these 2 veils apart. All right, and then we're just going to fold it like you would normally, and then we're going to clean up these edges. What I'm going to do first is just go along the edge here, get this nice and straight, and I use a rotary cutter for guide. And already you can see how much cleaner that edge is. Isn't that lovely? And now we're going to come over here to the curve. All right, we got that all done. Now I'm going to do that on the second veil, and I'll meet you on the other side of that. All right, now that I have both of these veils cut and the edge is nice and clean and looks lovely, I am now going to show you how to sew that and put it on a comb. With our fishing line, I put the safety pin on one end. I put this blue tablet here so you can see kind of the excess seam allowance I put there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out so it goes down here, and then I'm going to do a zigzag stitch. We are not going to be gathering with the thread, so we're going to lock the stitch on a 5 width, 5 length, and lock that first stitch. All right, now what we're going to do, it's pretty simple. We're going to go all the way down, zigzag back and forth on this fishing line. All right, we'll just keep going down, and I'll meet you at the other end. Well, I want to show you a cool thing. So you notice back here, we've already got a little bit done. If I pull this, it already starts to gather it for me. Next step is going to be pulling this, which is the fun part. All right, so now what I'm doing is I want to make sure all of this, because I'm about to sew this little ditch here really heavily with a 2 length stitch, and I'm going to be cutting all that salvage or that seam allowance off. So before I do that, I want to make sure all of this is nice and straight going down, and then I'm going to pull that as tight as I can. I'm going to push this out for just a sec here, because this first little bit right here is what I'm going to put a nice heavy lock stitch on. But this needs to be out of the way for a minute. You'll need this, so don't get rid of it yet. And now we're doing that 2 2 lengths. And I'm going to put a very nice lock stitch there. Now with that locked, I can now pull the fishing line, and that's how I'm going to make this go down to this little comb here. And it's a 3-inch comb, so I think we'll be fine. We'll get there quickly. But this is going to help me to keep pulling. So see, it's still loose on there. And remembering always to make sure all this is laying flat and that there's nothing underneath bunched up, you know, just that it's all flat here, that the gathers are nice and flat. And then I'm going to pull it tight like this, as tight as I can go, holding it right here with this hand, keeping everything in a nice straight fashion. Now I'm going to go with that stitch back and forth 100 times. All right, to finish this last part, I'm going to just do a real nice lock stitch going back and forth. Cut your threads, leave this on, and I'm going to cut all of that off right here. So we have that nice little ditch there, which is going to fit really well in our comb. What's nice is when it's still on the fishing line is you can still tighten it up a little bit. So I'm going to leave it on the fishing line until I know we have the right size, which I think we're doing pretty good. All right, so now let's get that on a comb. To place on the comb, this veil has pearls on it, and they're pearls that are actually only on one side. So we're going to make sure the comb is in the correct position. So here's the pearl side, and I'm going to place the curved side on the underneath as right here, leaving it on the fishing line until I know that I'm in the right spot. Right now I'm going to put a bead of glue, and I like to put the glue right in the ditch like this, and I pick a comb specifically with that little ditch in mind. All right, and we're going to go this way because we're going to be flipping the veil this direction. Because it's on the fishing line, I can tighten it. And now we're going to sew it on. I'm going to cut the fishing line off and save that for later because we have another veil. And now with a 1/4 of an inch ribbon, I'm going to then, since this is the side that the pearls will be seen and it flips this way, we want to make sure this is nice and clean as well. And you could leave it like that, that's not a problem, but I prefer to make it look nice both sides. And I do that with just a simple ribbon and glue. Go all the way down the back of it. And I put a nice generous job of it, and then we'll go like this. And I have my rubbing alcohol close by in case something gets on the veil, because it does happen real easy in this process right here. And that just finishes that off really lovely. Finesse that here in a second. I'm going to get them on first. I'm going to cut just a smidge over, and then I'm going to roll that down. And then to finesse it, I'm going to just kind of make sure everything's straight up here, connecting really well with the veil, because that when that's flipped, I don't want anything to be seen. So I'm going to push that down even further into the ditch. Sometimes there'll be a little pocket there. I just smear a little bit of glue right on that edge so it's all on there perfectly. And I'm going to repeat that again, and then I will have 2 veils, all from a 1990s veil. All right, stay tuned. Number 2 is coming. I got 2 veils off of that one relic of a veil from the 1990s. And now I'm going to take this headband stuff, and we're going to make a little flower girl. I'm going to bump it up and make it modern. All right, let's get on to that. This is going to be like dessert for me. I love doing flower girl stuff. It's just so much fun. You can go a little bit cuter and even have that modern romance feel. It's just lovely. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull everything apart so I can actually see what I've got here. So I'm going to just put them in piles. First thing I'm going to do is I think I'm going to do a design that's more higher on one side and lower on the other. So I have kind of a basic idea of what I would like to do, and I'm going to showcase, I think, the flowers. And I got a bunch of crystal buttons, and I thought these might be fun to put in the center of some of these flowers. I took one apart here, and I thought, well, what if we centered that with a crystal button? So I'm not sure. I don't think these buttons will work because they're too big of a shank on them. So something that sits a little flatter. Here, that's cute. Little 3 buttons, or 3 little crystals. Or there's this crystal button. That kind of has a fun little vibe to it, doesn't it? I think that's the winner. I approach this like I would any fascinator. I'm going to first do a base with some felt. And I just got a piece of felt and I just cut it out, rounding it around my thumb, and I got a little circle. And I'm just going to start this by putting a nice generous daub of glue down. And I just use a glue board, which is basically cardboard stock with duct tape on it, and that just protects my surface, and then I clean it with rubbing alcohol when I'm done. So here's our base, and that's got a nice dollop of glue on it. And that's usually how I start all of my fascinators or my flowers. I have a tutorial on feather flowers, and you can see how I use, the felt there as well. And then we'll just keep layering. And I think what I'll do, similar to when I take other flowers apart, I'll make sure that they're tiered, not putting them straight on top of each other. I'm going to tier it like that so that you can see the petals all the way around. Another dollop of glue. And I think what I'm going to do is actually use more than one flower just to make it really big and fluffy. All right, coming back in, yeah, I definitely like giving it a little bit more of an oomph in there. And if you wanted to, you could put little bits of lace in there. I mean, there's so many options, right? It just makes it so much fluffier. I love it. Look at that. So great. I think I'm gonna do one more. I think that has really nice look. So what I'm trying to get is height. So it's really nice and high on the sides and a good sinkhole for my button. And how we're going to do this button is real simple. This is how I anchor all my buttons. If it's a shank, I tie a little knot with the shank right there. So if you don't know, buttons have this on the back that's called a shank button. And I collect buttons, I just love them. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through that hole and through my felt that got moved here. And we're going to anchor it down through that felt. And you can kind of see why I did the felt now, because it gives us a base all the way up and through. And then I'm going to see how it looks. Oh, one thing I did forget to do is put a little hole. All right, so right in the center here, I'm going to put a little hole with my scissors. I'm going to just kind of make it a little bigger. And why I did that is so when I put this glue right here, the shank will sink into that glue and it'll sink into that hole and it'll kind of just nest in there, which is exactly what I want. I want it to nest right in the center, just like that. Obviously, we've just right now transformed it already. It's just amazing to do. And now because I'm going to sew through a little bit, and with that fabric tack, it's going to be, it's permanent. It's in there really good. But I just want to make sure everything is going to last a long time. So that little flower girl can wear that, put it in her little fashion box, little dress up box. All right, so that flower is done, and I'm going to make 4 more, I think. All right, just like before, I'm going to layer and make another flower. All right, so this kind of feels dated to me and I want to elevate this somehow, and I'm not sure how we're going to do that, because if I were to put this with that, it doesn't look bad. So why don't let's just explore the idea of taking these flowers off. This is going to be fun to reveal this at the end for myself, as I don't know what this is going to turn out. I think what I'm seeing here is another layered flower. So let's go ahead and make a base for that. We're going to just make a small base. All right, same idea. We're going to layer these up. Another nice thing about putting it on felt is that felt, when you glue it, is very sticky. So if you land it on something like the satin on here, it will adhere. We'll sew it on too, but it just makes it really secure. So it's like little mini versions of these guys. I love it. I decided to put a pearl in the center here because we're going to use that little pearl loop, and I got some white Swarovski pearls, and this is a 4mm size, and I'm just going to center one in each of those. I cleaned up the board and I kind of laid everything out in kind of the way that I think would look fun and pretty, And I'm going to now apply that to the headband. As we're sitting here, I'm going to sculpt it. And then we're going to also I'm going to take these little pearls and intertwine them. So I won't make loops, but more just kind of like little hints of loops. All right, the first one I'm going to do, I'm just going to nail it down and put a dollop of glue on here. And because I have that little felt there, it'll adhere real nice. So kind of just placing that where I think it'd be cute. And then I also took these the little centers of these little white flowers here, the little pearls. I took some and I kind of wove them here and there just for a little pearl element to kind of pull from the pearls in the little flowers. All right, now let's do another. And I'm just making this up as I go. And I did put a very good dollop of glue on there. And I like to look at it from the back as well. So cute. Now I'm going to go ahead and just weave in, I think from the back here, some of the pearls. I'll just put it under the flower. I might just secure it here with some pins just to give it extra security while it's drying. And then I'm going to weave it in and out, kind of giving it some movement. And you can kind of see the pearls are just kind of weaving in and out. Glue's already set. Super cute, right? Weaving that through kind of gives it some movement. Feels a little bit more modern rather than having the loops. Oh, it's going to be a pretty one. I would have to say that looks absolutely adorable. And that's how you upcycle a 1990s veil to make 2 veils and a flower girl headband. If you're looking for another way to upcycle old gowns or veils, check out this tutorial right here and you will learn all about the fun ways you can upcycle. See you later, veil makers.